Dr. Zanetor Rawlings.
Thank you, Right Honourable Speaker. And unfortunately, once again, I'm having to speak from a different microphone because the microphone for the representative for the people of Kyei is still not working. Mr. Speaker, I believe that this video is pathognomonic of a situation that we're seeing across board. And I think that at the core of that, there have been two motions that we're yet to, see materialize regarding the criteria for recruitment into our security services. And I think that this is something that really has to be addressed with utmost seriousness and urgency, because we're starting to see the ripple effects of perhaps the lack of understanding of the various, the philosophies of the security services that people belong to, and we're seeing that ripple effect that's manifesting as tensions between our security services and our civilian population. Mr. Speaker, it's unfortunate that this is becoming the norm, and we have had too many people on the floor of Parliament speaking to this issue, and perhaps it's long overdue that a closer look is taken at the training program, the length of training, and the recruitment criteria that are being used to recruit and enlist the various officers into our security services, given the fact that the clashes are becoming, and given the fact that this is an election year and there's so much tension already, we really need to address this issue to avoid any such escalations and violence. Thank you so much, Mr. Speaker, for the opportunity.
Yes. Can I take somebody from this side? Well, then I go back here and I'll recognize a gentleman, Honorable Dafiemako.
Speaker, thank you for the opportunity. Speaker, just about a month ago, you gave me opportunity to speak about similar activities of immigration officers that are cited on the boundary between myself, my constituency, and that of a soldier mine at Eskuma. Mr. Speaker, this incident, that is the subject of the statement before us, it's not in isolation. Indeed, the activities of immigration officers, particularly in the Volta region, leaves much to be desired. Mr. Speaker, when you gave me the opportunity about a month ago, I made a point that, for instance, between Sunyani and Kofi Bedu Krum, the border with the Ivory Coast, there's no immigration barrier. A distance of about 140 kilometers, there's no immigration barrier. There are a couple of police barriers, yes, but no immigration barrier. And yet you'll be traveling towards an international boundary. But the converse in the Volta region it's terrible. We have between, Mr. Speaker, between the Domi Bridge and the Eskuma barrier, we have two immigration barriers, in addition to police barriers and military barriers. After Eskuma barrier, between Eskuma and Bli, which is in the Hokwe district, we have additional two immigration barriers, one at Golokwati and at Bli. When you use the arterial road between Ho and back to Eskuma, Honorable Kodo is here. There are about 3 immigration barriers in his constituency alone. And there are about 3 more in Honorable Beja's constituency. And Mr. Speaker, all these immigration barriers are located within the interior, the interior of the Republic of Ghana, not located on the international boundary. When you use the arterial road from home here, the Shama, the motorway runabout, all the way to Aflao border, we have additional 3 immigration barriers. One, the first one you encounter will be at the Sugakope Beach. Then 5 kilometers away, they are again located at Dabala. When you leave Dabala, Mr. Speaker, Then you have 2 more before you get to the barrier, the international barrier at Aflau. And between Aflau and Ho, there are 3 more. That straddles Honorable Agbeve's constituency and Ketu North, Chamaveji's place. So the region is inundated with immigration barriers and officers. And we are okay. I mean, if we go through the barrier, it's okay. But the treatment they mete out to our people, you get to the immigration barrier, Mr. Speaker, you are asked to get out of the bus and travel and walk across the barrier. And you are searched as if you are national boundary, as though you are moving from Ghana to Togo. And the interrogation, are you a Ghanaian? And when people are simply moving from Agozume to say Dabala. But immigration officers will be searching them and asking them to produce their national ID cards, identity, citizenship, all manner of things. When perhaps people are simply visiting their paramours. So, this dehumanizing treatment. So, I will conclude by saying that, Mr. Speaker, we should look at, you've even asked me, I asked a question, you admitted it, and we brought the Interior Minister here, the Honorable Ambrose Dery, for him to explain the circumstances or the factors, yes, formally, the factors that account for citing immigration barriers, sometimes in close proximity to other immigration barriers. Some are so close, 5 kilometers, you meet another immigration barrier within a particular region. But he couldn't explain. He just came to speak to the matter and left. So I think we should look at the standards surrounding immigration barriers, the purposes, the reasons, and for which they are cited. We should receive fair treatment. We should receive fair treatment. The brutalization is too much. And because this house, over time, by an enactment, now permits immigration service or personnel within the immigration service to bear arms on the borders. They no longer patrol the borders alone with their arms. They now have come to town and are roaming in neighborhoods with the AK-47 in hand. And it's not proper. So, Mr. Speaker, I want to thank my colleague, the honorable member for Ketu South, for bringing this matter to the attention of the House, especially because this is also an election year. This matter is so germane. We should look into it and avert such occurrences, particularly when we get near the date for the elections in December. Mr. Speaker, with these words, I thank you for the opportunity.
Your contribution is long. Yes, Honorable former Majority Leader.
Speaker, thank you for the opportunity to make a few comments about the statement and the video clip that has been shown to us. Mr. Speaker, our Constitution is unambiguous in its language, and Article 50 of the Constitution provides that the dignity of all persons shall be inviolable. And 2 says, no person shall, whether or not he is arrested, restricted, or detained, be subjected to a torture or other cruel, inhuman, or degrading treatment or punishment. Be any other condition that detracts or is likely to detract from his dignity, and may I add, her dignity, and worth as a human being. The Speaker, the video clip that has been shown to us clearly is an affront to the humanity of the lady that we saw in the clip. However, Mr. Speaker, this is a clip that's been shown to us. We are not seized of the entire facts surrounding this. And that is why I will hasten to condemn whoever, notwithstanding what our eyes have beheld, certainly cannot be good for us as Ghanaians. Which is why, Mr. Speaker, I agree entirely with you that we should summon the minister responsible for the interior here to give us an account or a report of what indeed has occasioned this. And then the House, if we are not convinced or persuaded by what the minister comes to tell us, can take the matter to another level. Mr. Speaker, what I didn't hear you say is in respect of the time frame given to the minister. Maybe a week or 2 weeks, because the House will soon be adjourned. So if the House could maybe urge a time frame, I believe that it cannot go beyond 2 weeks, so that the minister comes to brief us. But Mr. Speaker, have we observed something? And our Constitution, in establishing the armed forces, also establishing the police service, and establishing the prison service, is silent on the creation of the immigration service and the fire service. So, Mr. Speaker, I believe the time has come for us to have a second look at this. Again, Mr. Speaker, we all do know that the framers of the Constitution, in their wisdom, they, having established the armed forces, provided for the Vice President to be the chairman of the Armed Forces Council, the Vice President to be the chairman of the Police Council, the Vice President to be the chairman of the Prison Service Council. In December 1996, after the conduct of election, the House was summoned to amend the Constitution to take the Vice President, the chairship of these very important institutions. The Speaker, it's not for nothing that the framers of the Constitution so provided. These are very, very important national institutions. And we want the presidency to be responsible directly for the conduct of the personnel. And yet, if I may say so, in a fit of anger, because of what had happened between the then president and the then vice president, the House was summoned to the House was summoned to do this. Mr. Speaker, maybe the time has come for us, on account of these many incidents that are coming, that the House and indeed the nation should have a second look at this. Mr. Speaker, the Article 201A was amended, Article 206A was amended, and Article 211A was amended on the same day. Same day. Important constitutional provisions. I'm saying that these call for a national reflection. Mr. Speaker, having said that, let me add the element that one of the colleagues spoke to earlier with respect to what is happening in our boundaries. Mr. Speaker, there is a boundaries commission bill before us. And I think we should take it as a matter of urgency and endeavor to pass that bill as soon as possible. I'm told that the committee is meeting on it tomorrow. If it's possible to deal with it by the close of the week or set maybe maybe next week, because of things that are happening in the country. The account has been given to us is an internal matter. But at the borders, a lot of things are happening that we should reflect on, the Speaker, and have this bill as urgently as possible, so that we don't wake up one day to witness the unthinkable. Mr. Speaker, thank you very much for the opportunity.
Yes, Honorable Clement Apak.
Most grateful.
Hey, my friend, I'm your senior brother. I'm your senior brother.
Why? Most grateful, Mr. Speaker. Thank you for indulging me. Mr. Speaker, I wish to add my voice to the call that has been made and to sympathize with the lady who was being obviously harassed and her rights abused by men who should know better. Mr. Speaker, I think this is becoming one too many. And I am particularly happy that the conversation has been broadened beyond the organization whose uniform the culprits were wearing in the video. Mr. Speaker, it is my considered view that we ought to look at the root cause of what we are witnessing with regards to this growing incidents of men and women in the security agencies abusing civilians. And Mr. Speaker, I believe if we are to be sincere and honest to ourselves, we cannot have this conversation without looking at the recruitment processes. Mr. Speaker, in the past few years, it seems to be the case that the processes by which men and women are identified and recruited to be trained as members of our security agencies leaves a lot more to be desired. As a matter of fact, some of us believe that some of the factors influencing what we are seeing is because persons who don't qualify in terms of their personal attributes, their character, and their upbringing find ways into the security agencies. And that, I believe, is the reason why we are seeing these occurrences. So what we need to do as part of this effort is to ask for transparency and to ask for a proper published criteria by which people are recruited into these security agencies. Other than that, I am afraid that we will discuss this matter, the order you have given will be carried out, and yet we would have these instances repeating themselves because of the deficiencies with the recruitment processes. It is time we speak out against what is popularly known as protocol recruitment and politically influenced recruitment, so that those who have the requisite qualifications can be recruited and trained to serve Mother Ghana. For indulging me.
Yes, Majority Chief Whip.
Speaker, let me show deep. That's what.
Speaker, our leadership. It's time for our leadership. Yes.
I haven't stated so.
Oh, he hasn't come to leadership.
Oh, not yet.
I just gave him the opportunity because he was on his feet. So I gave him the opportunity. Yes, go on.
Speaker, first of all, my sympathies to our friend. My friend Honorable Gomasi, and if I'm not far from right, your constituent, who clearly has been subjected to this seeming inhuman treatment. So I think our respected leader put matters in context. For me, when he walked us through memory lane, what has happened in this chamber before, our attempt as a country to amend portions of our laws specific to constitutional provisions that give some powers and oversight to the presidency or the vice president's office specifically, and the aftermath of that. That is a matter we cannot just wish away. I mean, in its attendant effect over time, and also put matters in context. I hear my colleague, Honorable Apak, who, in my view, humble view, is not being fair, especially when he talks about recruitment process. And I hear I'm being very careful in my assessment of your observation. Fact be told, the recruitment process has always been told ahead of time. And I want to speak as an independent observer. The manner in which Ghanaians are recruited into the security services, the criteria has always been put out. Yes or no? Yes. The criteria has always been put out. So let's not create the impression that somebody is short-changing the process or somebody is having an undue advantage. No, that's my view. When you get the opportunity, express yours. It is interesting. I find it very interesting. When you were in power, you didn't find anything wrong with it. Wrong. You know, from the outset, if we unnecessarily lace our argument with politics, secret trait, it will muddy the waters. Because when you were in power, you didn't find anything wrong with it. They'll put up qualification, how many passes and all that. That was fine. Then your time, it was fine. There was nothing wrong with that. Let me also take you memory lane. When students, your time, you were in power then, students were going on demonstration. Legon campus, I should read the statement. I mean, live bullets. You don't remember? Well, I am speaking by extension. Live bullets were shot at students.
But they are also
University of Ghana, it happened. Then I was a news president, it happened. So, if it is the case that we want to question the professional conduct, you won't listen. Honorable Watson, listen to me. Listen. Have the patience to listen. When it happens, and the decision is that we should question the conduct of these security personnel, that's fine. But let the analysis be whole and absolute. Don't pick and choose. If we do that, then we'll be making progress. So all that I'm saying is that, Honorable Gomashi, our hearts go out to you, and especially leader has given us some direction that we should try and get the video in whole, because this was a scanty video that was shown, and we cannot judge based on this. We must get it in whole, and the speaker could not have directed better by saying that the entire video should be submitted to the Minister for Interior, and then he comes to this house to apprise the house. But let me conclude. I see my good friend, the Honorable Dr. Zanetor, itching to speak, but you should listen to me. You are itching to speak. Because she also questions the recruitment process. Interestingly, that is the same tangent, Doctor. I don't know if the two of them met and exchanged notes. In the same tangent, the Honorable Apart is towing. Is it the case? Is it the case that is it the case that we just want to condemn this personnel? I mean, these are professionals who have been trained. If, for me, for the period I've been in this house, this is the first time I'm hearing a formal complaint, hear me well, a formal complaint related to immigration officers. This is the first time. Formal. We may have made some comments in the media space, but this is the first time a member is making a formal complaint to the best of my memory. So, Speaker, your directive is spot on. The minister should come, I'm sure business committee and leadership will aid in this regard. And then he comes to this house and brief us properly. And Speaker, it should not just be briefing. We must get to the bottom of it. It shouldn't just be the minister comes, he speaks to us, and then the matter ends, and we all go home and sleep. No. Probably, Speaker, I will further suggest, if it pleases you, I will further suggest that the committee relevant should delve deeper into this matters and come out with all the nuance involved so that we can address this matter once and for all. But let nobody think, because you can have the best recruitment process. You can have the best recruitment process, yet you can have bad personnel who will misconduct themselves. That is also possible. So our hearts go out there to our colleague, and Speaker, you are right, you have directed appropriately. But let's also lose sight of what our former leader directed our minds to. That a certain period in our history, we hastened to amend portions of our constitution and took away powers, some powers, from the vice president in terms of oversight, because the vice president was mandated earlier on to play oversight over this institution as council chair, and we plowed those powers off. So probably we should revisit those amendments and then restate it how it was before. So I thank you for indulging.
Mr. Speaker, I thank you for the opportunity. I want to thank our colleague for making the statement. Mr. Speaker, if the video we have just watched, if the story behind it is what we have seen, I will take the opportunity to totally condemn the actions of the officers we've seen in that particular video. Mr. Speaker, I agree that the entire immigration service is not at fault. Indeed, there could be bad elements in every organization. And so we should be careful when we are talking about this. But Mr. Speaker, some colleagues have raised very serious concerns. And it must start from that place. One of the reasons I agree with you entirely, Mr. Speaker, that the Interior Minister must appear before the House is to actually find out, Mr. Speaker, apart from the recruitment process, what actually it takes for somebody to be recruited, sent to training, and how long that training is supposed to take before the person passes out. Because, Mr. Speaker, ever so often we hear, oh, these people came 3 weeks, they are on the street in a uniform, as immigration officers, as police. Is it the case that the content of the training is problematic? If so, Mr. Speaker, we need to deal with it. Mr. Speaker, my colleagues, when he was Luke's president, there was an incident by the police during a demonstration. Mr. Speaker, the video shown by Honorable Jifa was not at a demonstration. This is not a brutality during a demonstration. Mr. Speaker, we've all been to demonstrations before. And in any case, he said that was a policeman against a student. This woman was being brutalized in her own community when she was not at a demonstration. Mr. Speaker, I had my own experience. Mr. Speaker, Any Friday or Saturday, if I move from Accra to Ho, 165 kilometers, on average, I get stopped 7 times. 3 of those stops are immigration posts. One of them is what Honorable Dafameko spoke about. Mr. Speaker, under which law is an immigration service supposed to mount a barrier at Asikuma, ask sick people who have been referred from Ho Government Hospital to Kolebu, everybody come out of the car, search everybody and tell them to walk across the barrier, and the car drive to the before they sit on the car, whether it's raining or shining. What is the issue? Asikuma is nowhere near any border. So what exactly is it that the immigration officials are looking for? Mr. Speaker, the worst one is when I get stopped on Adomi Bridge by immigration officer. Then I ask, why are you stopping me? He said they have been asked to stop everybody. I said, I'm going to Adaklu. What am I supposed to be an illegal immigrant from Accra escaping to Togo? He said because the barrier, he said because of people coming from Aflao. These are their words. And I'm like, in any case, is there any law in this country that says that if you are a Togolese, you are not allowed to be in Ghana? Mr. Speaker, the mindset of some officials of immigration and some of the forces, whenever they are approaching that side of the country, is wrong, Mr. Speaker. That is the mindset. Mr. Speaker, then under no circumstances should we go through this inside our country. When an immigration officer stops you at Asikuma, begin to search your bag. I mean, Mr. Speaker, this is just not right, and the minister responsible must deal with this. Mr. Speaker, I also heard the respected majority leader talk about the fact that it could be that because at a point in time we had a law that says the chairman of the police service, the immigration service, was the vice president. The removal of that in 1996 could be this, the result of this. Mr. Speaker, in a certain era, a vice president who was the chairman of the economic management team. But within that period, the economy of that country tanked.
The banks collapsed.
I'm not saying it's not Ghana. I said in another country. Okay.
Just calm down. Yes, please.
The Speaker, I made a statement that when the Vice President was in charge of the forces, then there was direct responsibility placed under the presidency, that perhaps because of what is happening these days, we should look at it again. That's the import of what I said. Don't make your own extrapolations and draw your own conclusions. This is a house of records.
I get him very right well. So I'm saying that during another era, a vice president was the chairman of the economic management team within that era. During that era, the banks collapsed. The economy tanked. Is it the case that the vice president being the chairman of those things could have solved the problem? If that is the case, then that era, that vice president didn't actually acquit himself well of being the chairman of those organizations. So reinstating the vice president to those would have solved the problem. But you know the era. You know the era. Mr. Speaker, I also saw in this house, we all agreed that at a point in time, our immigration officials, if you compare with our counterparts from other countries, if you notice, they are armed. The fact that our immigration officials are not armed does not give them a fair fighting chance on the borders. So we in this house made a law and say that let's arm our immigration officers so that they can compare favorably in terms of defending us on the borders. But Mr. Speaker, when I see an immigration officer with AK-47 in his hand and using his left hand assaulting a woman in the woman's constituency, that is not what we arm them for. Is it the case that I'm supposed to believe that today immigration officials are supposed to become like the army, another version of the army, holding AK-47, roaming communities in this country? There could be a situation where specific issues could lead the immigration officers into community to conduct special operations. We agree on that. But Mr. Speaker, I'm telling you, I come from a near border situation, and the immigration officials, some of them, their conduct are becoming different from what the Immigration Service asked them to do. I am not saying all immigration officers are like that. And my prescription is that perhaps it's because of the speed at which they are recruited and trained. Maybe we need to look at the content of their training. But it's called, Mr. Speaker, let's face it, everybody, times when even the police officer stops you, the language in which they speak to you and their conversation tells you, even the DEC they claim they have submitted is questionable. Because it's not based on any proper, diplomatic language. Calm down. I mean, they stop you as if, in fact, the word they stop you is as if there's something wrong. So when they stopped me, I said, is there a problem? They said, we are doing our work. Allow us to do our work. I said, who is stopping you from doing your work? So, Mr. Speaker, it is very important for our colleague, the Interior Minister, to take these things on board, because somebody said, Mr. Speaker, we are going into an election. If the ordinary person have the mindset that the people who are trained and mandated to protect us, to carry out our civic duties at elections, have become people who could actually impede that process and sometimes assault us, Mr. Speaker, it is possible that people may begin to find alternative ways of protecting themselves.